What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 12, 10th Inning Screwballs. I'm Dante Esposito.
And I'm Sevi Esposito. Dante, Season 2, Episode 12. I'm going to go straight to 12. Who's your 12? All sports. Give me a 12.
Could go Rogers with the Packers. If we're thinking nowadays, I could go Nico Collins. But I'll go with the Saint receiver from Ohio State, Chris Olave.
Interesting. Of all the 12s, you could have picked the GOAT. Who's now going to be an announcer this week. Bah, the GOAT. He's going to be an announcer. That's the sound you're going to hear when he's announcing. You could have picked the GOAT. There's so many of your 12s. You go Chris Olave. Wow, very interesting. You make some interesting choices, I got to say. Well, for me, there's only 112. All right? There'll always be only 112. It's the guy that has more nicknames than maybe anybody else. It's Joe Willie Namath, Joe Willie, White Shoes, Broadway Joe, the man who changed the structure of the NFL. He led the University of Alabama to a national championship in 1964, and the New York Jets later on to a championship for the first Super Bowl for the AFL in 1969. Here's high praise. The legendary coach, Paul Bear Bryant from Alabama, one of the 2 or 3 most famous, successful coaches in the history of college football, said that Namath was the greatest athlete he ever coached. And that's saying a lot. And, he was the top pick in the 1965 AFL draft. We all know the story, how he guaranteed the Jets would beat Baltimore in Super Bowl III. He made good on that promise. Jets winning 16-7 over the Colts. And that sparked the AFL-NFL merger. People look at his statistics and talk about overrated because he threw a lot of interceptions and one of the most influential players in the history of the NFL, period. And nobody can take that away. All right, Dante, what do we got today?
Yes, this week we're going to talk about a little college football, our biggest takeaway from college football. The NFL starts tomorrow. We're going to give our 3 games to watch, but we're going to start it off with some MLB, and we're going to talk about the status of these playoff races. We'll talk about the American League right now. American League, I think that the teams that are in the playoffs right now, which are Yankees, Orioles, Guardians, Astros, Twins, and Royals, will stay that way. However, I think the only thing that might change are the Yankees and the Orioles winning the American League East. Seems like both teams have wide open chances to just run away with the division, but they don't. I think the biggest lead in the last month has been 2 games, and that was by the Yankees, a 2-game lead in the division. And now the Orioles have a lead in the division after Clay Holmes just blows another game. For the 11th time this season, Clay Holmes blows a save.
Not good, baby. Not good.
So the American League, in my eyes, again, set in stone aside from the American League East, who wins that division, who doesn't. The loser of the division will be the first wild card spot. But the National League is really where there's conversation. You have the Dodgers, Phillies, and Brewers, who are pretty much locked. But then you have the Padres, Diamondbacks, and then the Mets and the Braves who are fighting for that last wild card spot. I know everybody says the Mets are the hottest team in baseball. They've had the best record in the past 25 days or so. And this is not me hating the Mets. This is me not believing in the Mets. It's the Mets. Do we really expect them to still stay hot and beat out the Braves for their wild card spot? No. I don't care if it's the OMG Mets. I don't care. There's not enough there for me. I'm not saying they're a bad team. Not saying they're not an exciting team. But I was just talking about Clay Holmes and how he's blown 11 saves. The Mets don't have a reliable closer either. Edwin Diaz is very hot and cold, much like Clay Holmes. And I can't put my faith in a team that can't guarantee a 2-run lead going into the 8th or 9th inning. Therefore, I can't take the Mets. I'll take the Braves going down the stretch. And they'll probably lose it in game like 162. And in typical Mets fashion, they won't make the playoffs.
Before I talk about what I'm thinking about baseball, I just want to push back on something here. You said everything you said about the Mets was not because you're a hater, but because it's the Mets and
Yeah,
this is what the Mets do. Uh, who did you pick last week to get to the Super Bowl from the AFC?
yeah. So
No, answer the question. Who'd you
I'll
pick?
answer it, but listen.
No, just curious.
There's a
Forgetting.
big difference.
I'm forgetting. Who was it?
There's a
Say
big
it.
difference.
Who
There's a
was
big
it?
difference.
Who?
There's a big okay.
You
There's
can't
a
say
big
it.
difference
You
between the
can't
Jets.
say it.
There's a big difference between the Jets, who I
Jets.
picked
That's
to
who
win
you
the Super
said.
Bowl,
Now I
and the
remember.
Mets. A
Oh,
big
really?
difference.
What's that?
The Jets have a Hall of Fame quarterback. They have great weapons on offense. They have one of the best defenses. What Hall of Famer do the Mets have right now?
You don't need a Hall of Fame, and Frankie Lindor just may become a
No,
Hall of
no,
Famer.
no, no.
But that's beside the point. That's beside the point. Okay, these are
Big
team
difference.
sports. These are team sports. All right. Okay. You want to talk about Hall of Famers? Where's Dan Marino in the World Championship list? Okay, it's Hall of Famers doesn't do it. It's a team sport. All right. So having one Hall of Famer who's 40 years old, who played 4 snaps last year, went to a serious injury that doesn't heal so easily when you're 40 years old,
He didn't
and
get
you're going to
banged
say
up
that's
for a
different.
whole
No,
year.
the Jets do Jets things, okay? Like the Mets do Mets things. So if you really believe that the Mets, no matter how hot they are, can't get there because they're the Mets, I'll buy that. But then you got to say the same thing about the Jets.
Well, I've been saying the same thing about the
You
Jets for
picked
the
them for the
last
Super Bowl.
10 years. But this year is different.
Yeah, every year is different. Go talk to the Met fans. They'll tell you this year is different too. You guys are all delirious.
They say that every year.
We didn't say it last year with Rodgers.
Quarterback.
Did we say it last year with Rodgers? This is different. We got Rodgers.
And then he got hurt.
There you go. 40 years old.
Huge. The most important player that you could have on a football team got hurt 4 plays.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Now, yes.
One more question, okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Last year, he
Yeah.
didn't get hurt. Okay. You know the makeup of that team last year. You know what the offensive line was like.
I still think they go far.
How far? A playoff game?
I'll say divisional, maybe championship series. Yes. They win a playoff game. They win a playoff game with that roster. Do they beat the Chiefs? Well, they beat the Chiefs in the regular season, I'll tell you that. So what makes you think they can't do it in the playoffs? They can. So you know what? With that makeup of that team last year, I do think they go to the Super Bowl. I do.
We're supposed to be talking about baseball.
All right. Well, you changed it to football.
All right. So my take on baseball right now. All right. So with the exception of the Braves, who are an exception simply because they've got 3 or 4 all-star caliber players that are out for the year. So nothing makes sense in Atlanta right now. You can't. So with the exception of the Braves, everything pretty much is going according to plan except for the Mets. And here's why. All right. The Yankees and the Orioles are stumbling toward the finish line. Okay. They're tripping over each other. Okay. Could have bet on this. Both teams have big holes. And sure enough, good teams, hot starts, streaky, and they both don't know who they want to give it to. Okay. So both of them are stumbling. The Guardians, I hate saying the Guardians, it's the Indians, are grinding it out just as you would have expected from Cleveland. Okay. The Twins are starting to fold just thinking about the playoffs as they start to sink. Just in anticipation of the playoffs, they start to sink like a lead balloon. All things you would have expected. The Astros, just thinking about the playoffs, they start getting better. Okay. And they're on the rise. All right. So the American League is as expected. Okay. The National League kind of is as expected also. The Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Brewers are all picking up speed now. They all had a little pit stop, okay? And now comes the playoffs, and they're all starting to pick up speed. And by the way, do you realize that of all the teams in Major League Baseball, you want to talk about parity? No team is on pace to win 100 games this year. That's pretty friggin' crazy. None of them are on pace. If they continue on their current pace, Dodgers, Phillies, whomever, Yankees, nobody is on pace for 100 games. It's why anybody could win in the playoffs. It's a freaking crapshoot because nobody's great. Okay, Major League Baseball got what they wanted: a bunch of boring teams. Okay, they wanted everybody to have a chance, so they forced everybody under salary thresholds, so nobody could be great, and everybody would have a chance, but nobody would be great. And there's no great teams, no excitement. But that's another story. All right, Phillies, Dodgers, Brewers picking up the pace. The big story is the Mets.
Yep.
It really is the big story. Okay, and I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to draw the Mets in the playoffs. That team scares me right now. They scare me, okay? I don't want to play them. It's a team that's playing loose like a team that has nothing to lose. They're playing with house money.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the off year.
Yeah.
We're going to dump salary and dump the old guys and restock the minor league system. And this year, don't expect anything. We're not going to do anything. And these guys are playing like, everybody counted us out. We've got nothing to lose. And they're hot because they're loose. Okay? You talked about Clay Holmes yesterday. You could see he's squeezing that the pulp out of that ball because he's nervous, because he's losing his confidence. Okay? The Mets are playing just the opposite. Okay? You saw last year, I understand injuries, but Severino with the Yankees, the pressure he was feeling, it got worse and worse. Over there, he's feeling loose and free again. And he's pitching his tail off. The Mets are a scary team right now. And I'm not saying they can get to the World Series or win the World Series. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if I'm a playoff team, I don't want to play the Mets right now. I don't want to play them. They worry me. They're really good team right now. And their pitching staff right now, starting pitching. You mentioned the relief pitching. It's got holes in it. But everybody's relief pitching has holes in it. But their starting pitching is performing, not saying that they're better, but performing better than anybody else. Okay? And, Francisco Lindor, I made a comment that he could potentially be ticketed for the Hall of Fame one day. That's who knows. Okay. But I'll tell you this. All right. I don't know what the criteria for most valuable player is anymore. I really don't know. All right. Is it the guy who has the best statistics and is the best player? Trout won those years, even though he was on a lousy team. Or is it the guy that made the biggest difference for his team? Okay, so if it's the guy who is the best player, it's going to be Ohtani, even though he's not pitching. All right, he's going to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases, and he's just a great player. Okay, but if it's the guy who made the biggest difference to his team, it's Lindor. And honestly, at some point, Major League Baseball has to snap out of it and make a second award. All right, because there needs to be like a most outstanding player and a most valuable player, because the fact that Ted Williams won 2 Triple Crowns, and in neither of those 2 years was he the most valuable player because his team didn't do crap. They were the Red Sox, all right? So while the Yankees are winning championships, okay, he is the Triple Crown, okay? And what happens? He's not an MVP. So the whole Ohtani versus Lindor thing, I think it's unfair because Ohtani's going to win. But in my definition of an MVP, it's the guy who makes the biggest difference to get his team over that line, and it's Lindor. It's Lindor.
I agree with that. I mean, right now, the criteria for the National League MVP is his name, Shohei Ohtani. Yes, MVP. No. That's all it is. And yeah, it's unfair to guys like Lindor. But I agree. We've been saying this for years now. It's the most valuable player to the team, not just the guy with the best stats who happens to have the best year. I mean, Ohtani won it with the Angels. They weren't a good team. Obviously, Trout, a bunch of years. Yeah, it's a flawed award.
It's a flawed award. Which, by the way, we're one of my favorite WFAN talk show host, Chris McMonigal, is going to be one of our guests. And when he's on, we have to take up the subject of a greatest player in the history of baseball because he insists it's Ohtani. He's a big Yankee fan. He says the greatest player in the history of baseball is Ohtani because of how he pitches and hits. And I will push back on that, and we'll have that conversation when we're here. But that's for another day, and we're looking forward to having him on. All right. That's it for baseball for now.
Yes.
And again, we're in the home stretch on baseball. There'll be a lot more baseball talk, but now there's a lot of everything talk because NFL is here. But before we get to NFL, let's talk about opening weekend for NCAA football. Dante, what's your takeaway?
Oh, man, FSU. They started in Ireland on this soft opening day 2 weeks ago, and they lost to Georgia Tech. Florida State's the number 10 seed. You lose to an unranked opponent. A lot of talk going around. I didn't overreact. I didn't. It's a game in Ireland. They move away from the GOAT Jordan Travis. They get DJ Ukulele.
The
Okay.
GOAT Travis. What kind of GOAT is he?
Fine. But then you lose to Boston College at home. Yes, Bill O'Brien is one of the coaches at BC. No. No. You start the season 0-2. I don't care if it was a 25-team playoff. Florida State, goodbye. They're done. And everybody was ripping DJU week one. I give him a break for week one. Bad play calling, new system, fine. But man, he was not good. And again, I said Jordan Travis as the GOAT. Funny, but he led that team to an undefeated season. Then he gets hurt, and then they don't put FSU in the 14 playoff. And they said it's because of Jordan Travis. With him not being able to play,
Right.
They don't think the team is the top 4 team in the country. Well, now you lose Jordan Travis, and you're suddenly 0-2. You can't help but think, this is a quarterback problem.
Yeah, it's a big quarterback problem.
And you can't let up 28 points to Boston College. You couldn't stop the run. But man, DJ, you looked bad. And I like him. He's a great guy. But he looked really bad.
He looked bad.
That's the number 1 takeaway for this week. But I'm going to give a number 2 takeaway. And that's Vanderbilt upsetting Virginia Tech in overtime. Virginia Tech is a wild card to maybe make the playoffs, make some noise in the ACC. And Vandy's widely regarded as one of the worst Power 5 teams in college football. And they came out and won. Great game. That was the game of the week.
By the way, you mentioned that the Florida State defense also didn't look very good. You know, when you have a bad quarterback play, it affects your defense. They're on the field constantly, so it's really it's as you said, it's quarterback play. All right, so my one takeaway was not so much a game, but a situation. So Georgia destroyed Clemson 34-3. Now Clemson has become an NCAA powerhouse. They've won a couple of championships in recent years. They've turned out nothing but superstar quarterbacks who Heisman Trophy winners. Some have gone on to the NFL to be dominant quarterbacks, the top-notch quarterbacks. I mean, they really strong program, which was built by Dabo Swinney. Okay, now you can like him or not like him. I know you don't like him, but you cannot deny that this guy knows how to build a program, and he built a terrific program there. They were nothing before he got there, and now they're one of those teams. Okay, and here they played Georgia and got destroyed 34-3. So why? So of all the major teams in college football in the NCAA, the new transfer portal rules, where you can go in there and say, let me go after this quarterback from this team, from this school, and let me go after this wide receiver from that school and this edge rusher from this school, and bring them in as free agents to my school, because these players are all getting paid now anyway. Here are the teams that did not participate in the portal, okay? Everybody except the Air Force Falcons, the Navy Midshipmen, the Army Black Knights, and the Clemson Tigers. Now, in the cases of Army, Navy, and the Air Force, I don't think Air Force was going to poach somebody from the portal and put him in a plane to fly, okay? And Army was not going to go get a quarterback and hand him a rifle, okay? So it was the 3 military teams and Clemson. So Dabo Swinney has sworn off the whole concept of the transfer portal, and it's hurting him, and it's hurting Clemson. He's getting a lot of criticism for it. The rules have changed. He's got to play by the new rules, but I get it. I get it because, why did Coach K retire from Duke? Why did Nick Saban suddenly retire from Alabama? His team was down to the national championship game. Why was he retiring? It still got it all going on. They wanted no part of this transfer portal business, of paying for players, of a sport which is no longer an amateur sport. They wanted no part of it. And apparently Swinney wants no part of it either, but he doesn't want to retire. He needs to shit or get off the pot. And it's what it's coming down to. He needs to either say, I'm going to play by these new rules. I don't like them. It's like when free agency started in baseball. Okay. You either played the game and started paying for these guys when they were free, or you're going to come in last place. And that he's either has to play this game, or he's got to follow Nick Saban into the broadcast booth. But to me, that was the big news this week. And it was the situation, not that game.
I hate Dabo, but I got to respect that. Yeah. I do respect that.
And I'm not saying he did the right thing or he's doing the right thing. I just get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. All right. NFL kicks off. Hallelujah. Finally this week. Thursday night, we've got our first game of the season. Friday night in Brazil, where these players are being locked in their hotel rooms. They're not allowed out because the crime in the streets, there's no safety, and they're afraid that players will be kidnapped and killed. So they keep them locked up until Friday night when they release them on the field to play the game and then lock them up again and stick them on a plane and bring them back. Really, I understand. Let's grow the game. Nationally, grow the game around the world, an international sport. Let's go to places where players will die if they go out for a hot dog. Okay, but anyway, it's all happening this weekend. And with that said, Dante, you get to pick 3 games that are your can't miss, must watch games for this week.
I want to double back real quick. You said the players can't go out and they're released onto the field. Well, they're released, but they can't. Neither team can wear their primary colors because you cannot wear green in Brazil because it's gang related or that. Why do you pick 2 green teams?
There's 3 green teams, 3 green teams in the entire league, and they take 2 of them and send them there.
Stupid. That is dumb. But my 3 games, can't miss games. Obviously, I'm going to have to go with tomorrow night, Thursday night's games. Chiefs, Ravens. I mean, this is a rematch between Lamar and Mahomes, and it's going to be a thriller where the Chiefs lose on opening night again.
Really?
Yes. Then I'm going to pick a Sunday game. I'm going to go with the rookie, the first overall pick. Everybody can't wait to see him. Caleb Williams with his 3 great receivers against the Tennessee Titans. And now everybody would love to watch this game because of Caleb and Odunze and Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. But I can't wait to see Will Levis. What's he got? It's his sophomore year. He's coming off an injury. He's got his cannon. Let's go. I think the Bears are going to win that game, but I think that's going to be a great game. And the third one is going to be Monday night, my Super Bowl matchup, Jets, Niners. I initially thought the Niners were winning this game. The lawnmowers in the back. Give me the Jets. I'm going to take the Jets week 1 because Rodgers has a crazy record when his defense allows less than 21 points. And yes, the Niners have a crazy good offense, but Brock Purdy and the Jets defense, I'll take the Jets defense every single time. So give me the Jets on Monday night.
Just a quick thing about Baltimore. Last year I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. They came damn close. This year I don't pick them to go as far. They lost a lot of key players. Now, they picked up a dynamite running back, okay? But they lost a lot of key players in that offensive line. And I think it's going to take them a little, and they lost some key players on defense as well. I think it's going to take them a little time to find their legs. I think the Chiefs take it to them at the opening night, but we'll find out. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So my 3 games: the Packers, who you love; the Eagles, who I hate. I'm picking the Eagles, even though I hate them. I think the Eagles rebound this year, even with losing Kelsey as your center. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. Picking up a top-notch running back from the Giants this year is going to help their offense a lot. I think this game is going to start to tell a story for the entire year for both of those teams. The Packers, Jordan Love, had a half a season where he was spectacular, a half a season and a playoff game where he was spectacular, and the first half of the season where he looked very mediocre, maybe even poor. Okay, the Eagles won something like 10 straight games, 11 straight games to start the season, and never looked good doing it, and then fell to the edge of the earth, and there was rumors of firing the coach, and the quarterback doesn't get along with him, and everything was chaotic over there. We're going to find out in week 1 what these two teams are made of, okay? Because these two teams, both teams, people are picking them to go to a championship game, and yet both teams could crap the bed in a heartbeat if the problems they started to have at one point last year turn out to be the real them. So who's the real Jordan Love? Who's the real Eagles? We're going to find out. Big game for that reason. Bob,
No.
what happened?
No. I don't think you could just go off of week 1.
Oh, I think you can. I think you're going to learn a lot about those two teams on Sunday. I really do. And with that said, my second game, again, trying to feel out two teams that are on the periphery of playoff possibilities, the Jaguars and the Dolphins. Two teams that everybody is talking about every year lately. Everybody believes the Jaguars won a division just 2 years ago. The Dolphins every year are being picked. Tua and everybody's high on their big explosive offense. And every year they run into teams that are good teams and just shut them down. And every year they go into cold weather and get shut down. These are two teams that can't lose games like this. The Jaguars need to beat teams like the Dolphins, and the Dolphins need to beat teams like the Jaguars. So if they're going to be on the cusp of making playoffs, they have to win games like this. And that's my second game for that reason. And then the third game is a very high-profile game for all the wrong reasons. It's the Cowboys and the Browns. And it's a high-profile game because it's the Cowboys, okay? And this is going to be really interesting because I did not pick the Cowboys to even make the playoffs this year, okay? And I've received a lot of flack over that because I guess half the world is Cowboy fans, no matter where they live, and I respect that. Being a Yankee fan, I know what that's like, when you're a target because so many people root for your team. And also like being a Yankee fan, understanding the Cowboys, you've got championships and they're all got dust on them because you haven't done anything in years, right? Just like the Yankees. So I get it. I relate to the Cowboys. Don't like the Cowboys, but I relate. The Browns have a dynamite defense, but their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, hasn't done anything in years. Okay, he was suspended for being a bad boy. They let him back in the league because only in the NFL can you be abusive to women and be ushered back in and handed millions and millions of dollars. Okay, because if you're even accused of it in baseball, they send you to Japan. Okay, and tell you never to come back again. All right, and maybe they'll let you play on the international team for Mexico for a game, but that's all you're allowed. Go away, out of the country. Okay, but in football, they hand you a Rolls Royce and they drive you into the locker room with more guaranteed money than any other quarterback in football. Well, he hasn't done crap. All right, so he needs to step up his game. And the Dolphins have a damn good defense. The Cowboys have a damn good defense. So this is going to be interesting to see these two defenses go against two suspect offenses. The Cowboys also, like the Ravens, have lost offensive linemen, and it's going to hurt them. So, how does Dak respond? Last year, Dak had a career year. Now, did he find himself and he suddenly, this is Dak? Or was it just that blip where he had this one great year and now he comes back to where he always has been, which is the way he is in the playoffs, where he does nothing. All right. So, interesting game. Well, it's the truth. He does nothing. So, it's going to be a real interesting game. I wanted to talk about the Rams and the Lions because I love both of those teams. And I'm really interested in that game, but I'm not allowed because we're only allowed to talk about 3 games, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I love the Lions coach more than anything else. I love Dan Campbell. Did you see he's got a new commercial?
What happened?
He has a commercial. Dan Campbell. Oh, my God. I love this guy. All right. I loved him the day they hired him, and everybody criticized him because he said, we're going to get up and bite the kneecaps off. And everybody was like, this guy's a clown. No clown. No clown. His players love him. They take the lowly Lions, who were a joke for years, and he makes them a contender for the Super Bowl for the last 2 years. But he has a commercial. It's for TGIFs. And it's beautiful. Let me tell you something. He's so good in this commercial. He acts as a server. And he goes over to the table and he goes, what's your order? And the kid says, I'll have the 50-cent. And he goes, no, shh. Cover your mouth. They may steal your order. The kid goes, okay, I'll have the 50-cent wings. He goes, good choice. They'll never get it. It was beautiful. He's fantastic. He's a natural. Everything he does is wonderful. But anyway, I'm not allowed to talk about the Rams and the Lions. So I think, Dante, I think that's it.
Yes.
Okay, so that takes us to that part of the show we called Yesterday, Today, Before, and After. I'm going to get it right this week because I got it wrong last week. This is that time when Dante talks about something that's on his mind that's happening now, and I'll talk about something that's on my mind that happened in years gone by. Dante, kick it off.
Yeah, a really, really tough one this week. Hockey world lost 2 incredible people, Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. Riding their bikes in Jersey, man, they got hit by a drunk driver. Both died. Really tough. Johnny spent 8 seasons with Calgary, 2 with Columbus, 243 goals, 500 career assists. Hobie Baker Award winner with Boston College, scored a goal in the national championship game with Boston College, won the national championship with Boston College. IHF Junior gold medalist, USHL Rookie of the Year, 7-time NHL All-Star, Lady Byng winner. Obviously a great player on the ice. Defied all odds. He was a small player. He was fast, great hands, and his signature wraparound goals will be missed. He's was a great player, but even better person, as everybody likes to say. And I don't want to take any attention away from his brother Matthew. Also played for Boston College, was an AHL player, also a great person. And this all happened on the eve of their sister's wedding. So really, really tragic stuff.
It's not even a sports story.
Yeah.
It's not even a sports story. It's a life story, and it's a heartbreaker. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. 2 young guys with young families, little kids, and it's just horrible. That family are in our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
So on a little better note, I want to talk about some integrity in sports. All right. Saw something on Sunday's golf tournament, the FedEx Cup, where Sahith Theegala self-reported a 2-stroke penalty for touching the sand with his club during the backswing of the Tour Championship. Now, no one saw this, and he wasn't sure himself if he saw the sand move, but he thought he may have, so he reported to the officials. Okay? That 2-stroke penalty that he got cost him $2 million. Okay, it was the difference between coming in tied for second place or not, and it cost him $2 million. Okay, and he said, I wasn't sure if I touched the sand, but I wouldn't be able to live myself if I did something which was against the rules, and I wouldn't have been able to sleep that night. Silly rule to begin with, but the golf gods must think so because he went on to birdie the next 5 holes. But it had me thinking, along with our number 12 today, of integrity in sports, which we don't see a lot of. And it made me think of Joe Namath and again Paul Bear Bryant, his coach back in Alabama, who we mentioned at the beginning of the show. So in 1963, the year before Alabama with Bryant and Namath won the national championship, Bryant suspended Namath for the last 2 games of his junior year, which meant that he was going to miss the Sugar Bowl. And the way it went down was a rumor had it that at a frat party, Joe had a drink. And Alabama's rule was no drinking. So Bryant calls Joe in and he says, people are telling me that you had a drink at this party. Did you have a drink? No one's in that room but the 2 of them. And they're going on to a bowl game. Okay? They're going to play the Sugar Bowl. And Namath could have said no, could have denied it, but shows the integrity and says, Coach, they gave me a 7-7, and I had a couple of sips. So yes. And the way the Namath tells the story is Bryant fell back and went, oh no. He said, well, got to suspend you. And he suspends him for 2 games, the last game of the season plus the Sugar Bowl. Okay. Bryant didn't have to do it. Namath didn't have to come clean. They were all together the next year, then win the national championship. It's an integrity in sports that you just don't see very often. We saw it with Tigala at the golf tournament this past week. I haven't seen much of it since that 1963 suspension in Namath. There's not enough of it. But what Tigala did reminded me of that way back then. Dante, I think that's it. Let's tie it up.
Yep. Yeah, one quick thing. I just wanted to say something about integrity in sports. You're seeing it a little bit more in the NHL, where if there's a high stick call or a trip, there's been a couple instances, I'm forgetting who exactly, but after the penalty's called, they go up to the ref and say, no, he didn't get me with a high stick, or he didn't trip me. I just flinched and there's no penalty. So you're seeing it a little bit more.
Yeah, but you also had to create a penalty called embellishment because some of them make believe it happened. All right, so I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. When you need to create a special penalty called embellishment because they fake getting hurt. All right, don't tell me that's integrity. All right, they're all looking for a competitive advantage. They're all looking for an edge. All right, Dante, tie it up.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to episode 12 of 10th inning, season 2, episode 12 of 10th inning Screwballs. You know where to find us. Full episodes, YouTube, Spotify, shorter clips, TikTok, Instagram. If you haven't joined the chat page, join it.
And as far as joining it, look, we started this thing and we haven't promoted it properly. We haven't done all the things that a lot of people do. And suddenly we're pushing 5,000 followers. And suddenly that chat page has over 1,000 participants. It's growing. It's growing without us doing anything other than sharing these with you. So if you could share it for us, spread the word. Okay, spread the word. Get people to follow. Get people to subscribe. It's making a difference.
What he said. So from Dante Esposito
and Sevi Esposito.
Have a great week.
Go get your shine box. Ciao.